Hey, it's Jordan with TYT Politics. Hope everybody had a nice holiday. Unsung heroes. One of the main things I do, Emma does, and we try to do at TYT Politics is actually tell stories through real people. I've always thought that you could go with pundits, the experts, the strategists, but they're all full of shit, and most of them have no connection to what's actually going on in the country and real people's struggles. So since TYT Politics began a year ago, I've been interviewing you, real viewers, real people, people who are working 2 to 3 jobs, people with $200,000, $300,000 in student loans, people without homes, people struggling, people who are the victims of what I believe is the con job that corporate America, lobbyists, the banks have perpetrated on us. So I thought one of the awards we should be putting out isn't just for, most corrupt or these things, but actually unsung heroes, the people who inspired me. I know Emma's going to do her own awards through interviews. I must have interviewed at this point, a couple thousand people in a year. So it's kind of hard to point out, one person or 2 people, but I do have a couple people that really stood out to me, inspired me, and, kind of stick in my mind as, your quiet heroes, shall we say. People who are never going to be in newspapers, people who are never going to be on TV. But, the DNA of who I am as a journalist and the DNA of this channel is to highlight them, to highlight their stories. Because I think when you show stories, when you show what's really going on through real people, that's where you actually get truth. That's where you get authenticity. So without further ado, I have 3 unsung heroes. So I know I have a hard time picking one. But actually, one of the first person I want to choose is the first person I interviewed for TYT Politics. I know that's kind of corny, but I remember I was at the University of New Hampshire, and it was the debate between Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders. My first day on the job for them, pressure to perform. And I remember it was like 10 degrees out. It was so cold. Eric and my hands were getting frostbitten. And I saw this, really, kind of cute old man standing there holding a Bernie sign. And I went up to him, we started talking, and I found out he was a veteran. And when you're talking to older people, I think this guy was in his 80s, you really get, there's no filter. They are not mincing over what they say. They're speaking from the heart. They're speaking through experience. His name was John W. Jones, and he's just one of those characters you don't forget. Kind of reminded me of like a adorable, inspiring grandpa. He was a veteran, and I asked him about Hillary Clinton. What he said about Hillary Clinton was so spot on. It stood out to me. Listen to this.
I think that she's traditional old politics in the country, yes. And I'll tell you, this is what I feel strongly about. Should she be elected president, she'll do the same that should a Republican be elected president. First things first, they'll be getting calls from K Street in Washington, D.C., and they'll be saying, we've got an appointment for you in the morning, and they're going to collect commitments for the money that they've invested in their candidacy.
So obviously he was spot on. He knew, this woman, this candidate, this establishment creature, you put her in office, she will be taking orders from K Street, from the lobbyists, from the banks, not from you. And it just stood out to me that he really knew what was going on. But what really inspired me about him was actually what he said about Bernie Sanders. So take a look what he said about Bernie Sanders.
Here's an authentic man. This is not another bullshit artist coming forth with the political stuff. People are aching for some change. They're aching for something different. That's why this clown on the other side, Donald Trump, is so popular, because he's a little different. But the difference here is that this fellow Bernie is authentic. He says what he means. What you see is what you get. And he's a very, very bright man. And he does have political talents, and he knows how to work with people.
He is an authentic man. This is not just another bullshit artist. I mean, I love that. he was so inspired by Bernie Sanders because Bernie's not a bullshit artist. Bernie's authentic. He's not someone who has been changing his story for years and years and years. And, not just what he says, not just what he said, but the fact that here you have a veteran, somebody in 10-degree weather, he's an older gentleman standing out there for somebody that, even at his older age, inspired him. So that kind of inspired me. I kind of get a chuckle every time I watch that interview, because I think not only was he spot on about Hillary Clinton, but obviously he really had the pulse very early on about what was special about Bernie Sanders, what was special about Bernie Sanders' movement. And I think although Bernie Sanders obviously awoke a whole generation of young people, let's not forget there were plenty of senior citizens, middle-aged supporters of Bernie Sanders. And I think this gentleman is a perfect example of someone who is out fighting the good fight, even in the later years of his life. He's standing out in 10-degree weather talking to me. And he was out there for hours. After I interviewed him, I saw him hours later because finally somebody spoke to him. Finally, someone didn't lie to him. Finally, someone wasn't just tossing out bullshit platitudes. And I think you saw that all over the country. That's basically why Hillary Clinton lost, because Donald Trump was able to con America into thinking he actually cared about this older gentleman and senior citizens and the forgotten American, as Trump says. Obviously, that's not the case. We'll find out pretty soon. Moving on, another one of my unsung heroes. If you've been following TYT Politics, you know I try to get out there, cover everyday stories, everyday people. And when I was in Portland, I covered a houseless community. They don't call it homeless, they call it houseless, because to say you're homeless means you have no home is where the heart is, they say. So they're just without a house. They're not homeless. So what was striking to me about covering this was the fact that this outdoor, it was a tent city basically in Portland, was empty. Why? Because everybody was at work. It was literally the working poor. It was people who have jobs but just don't make enough to actually get an apartment, a home, whatever it is. And it was really striking to me. And I met a guy named Gary. He was a secretary for Right to Dream 2, which is a activist group that tries to help houseless people get back on their feet. And he was living out of his van. He wasn't even living in the houseless shelter. But Gary, it takes a lot to really move me in an interview. I generally think most people are full of shit. But he really kind of juxtaposed the houseless crisis in cities like Portland, San Francisco, all these cities that, have been gentrified, have plenty of houseless people all over the place. And why it is that even though people are houseless, a lot of times it's the wealthy and the people funneling the money and screwing you that are the most unhappy people in the country. Take a look.
But me personally, I see houselessness all over Portland. I don't see neighborhoods where there aren't people that are in need of some place to sleep. So it really, the experience has really opened my heart and opened my mind to a lot of people. There has always been a stigmatism in our society that looks down on people that don't have something you can take from them. Mm-hmm. And houseless people generally fall into that category.
I thought that was really powerful what he said about, if they don't have something you can take from them, they're irrelevant. And that's so true. I mean, honestly, does corporate America, do the lobbyists, do the banks, do they give a shit about you if you don't have something that they could get or helps enrich them further? Of course not. So this guy, he's out fighting the good fight. He was trying to make people's lives better that are living in this houseless community. He was there every day. And he also talked about the elements of greed. And, the 1%, just continually funneling more and more money to themselves. Take a look.
The people that are out here aren't the ones that gobbled up as much of the wealth as they could in this country when it was available to them. They're not the ones out here drawing property lines saying you can't be on this piece of land that God gave to everybody. And those are the same ideology that oppresses houseless people and keeps them houseless. Is the same ideology that keeps the super wealthy and keeps the wealth channels funneling towards the top 1% of our society.
This really spoke to me. You know, he didn't mention him, but really what I thought of when he said this to me was Reagan. You know, not that America was super duper awesome before Reagan took office. There were problems, but Reagan really started this acceleration, you know, of tax cuts for the wealthy and corporate welfare and deregulation and union bashing. And, you know, when he talks about this ideology and, you know, the oppression, this came straight out of the Republican playbook. And frankly, Bill Clinton, neoliberalism, just kind of poured more flames on the fire. And I think it's interesting because the culture, like society, Republicans like to make it seem like people like Gary, houseless people, they are pretty much useless hippies, poor, uneducated, on drugs. I mean, Gary is probably one of the smarter people I spoke to the entire year, and he is without a home at the moment. So when he talks about, you know, the wealthy continually trying to oppress people, and that's why you have this perpetual cycle of houselessness, that's probably 95% of why there's houselessness. The income inequality in this country, the government policy that literally is put in place for the wealthy, people already doing well, as opposed to people struggling. We've seen studies that show that we don't live in a democracy because public opinion does not actually have a direct effect with legislation. So if the public believes and wants something, it normally doesn't translate into policy. So when you hear platitudes of stronger together and make America great and la 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 la, all these things you hear, just think of people like Gary. Think of the houseless community that I went to cover in Portland. The other stories that I've covered all over the country, it's all platitudes. It's all bullshit. The corporate media is also perpetuating that fantasy that, you know, yeah, things could be better, but overall America's getting better. Unemployment's under 5%. Home equity is slightly going up. This is all fairy dust. It's not real. And I could tell you from going around the country for the last year, which has been a privilege, the Young Turks have supported me every step of the way. Most people are not doing well. Is everybody hanging off a cliff? No. But there's a lot of Garys out there. There's a lot of people struggling. There's a lot of people forced to live in an outdoor tent city like you see in Portland because between the credit card debt and them getting squeezed or losing their homes during the financial crash, not being able to afford health care, which gives them extra costs. There's a lot of people that have been squeezed, that have been screwed so that rich people could get richer. And I think Gary really exemplifies that. And one more thing Gary said that really stood out to me was really just about the fact that, you know, you could have as much money as you want, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're happy. Take a look.
I mean, it's not just the corporatists. It's like everybody in society that focuses their life on greed and the acquisition of material gains.
Greed, for lack of a better word, is good. Greed is right. Greed works. Greed clarifies, cuts through, and captures the essence of the evolutionary spirit.
Really what it is that they have this greed because they feel a lack in their life. And I really feel like sorrow for these people because I know that they're sitting up on top of the world financially, but they're neglecting their spiritual, their mental, their social needs. You know, their need to really help others and be involved on personal relationships with people. It's very difficult to do that if you believe that everybody in the world is trying to take everything from you. And these people that are in the top 1% believe that they're going to find fulfillment in life by just going out and grabbing everything from everybody else and hoarding it and saying, these are mine. I have power over these things. You can't touch them. But honestly, they're never going to find that inner peace. They're never going to find that love that exists within them if they don't do things to pursue the development of their mental, social, and spiritual lives. I mean, that's a part of every human, and when you neglect that, you end up being somebody that sits on top, lording over everything, and not being fulfilled in life.
Well, the thing that stood out to me is when he mentioned inner peace, because I think, greed is good, and the Gordon Gekkoization of America with, Wall Street in the 1980s and this whole social Darwinism, everybody fend for themselves. I think a lot of people, not all people, there's plenty of nice and generous, wealthy people, but a lot of people in the financial industry, in the government that just strive to make as much money as humanly possible, that just strive for power, they're not really happy. They're not really finding peace, because really what they're trying to do is fill a void. You know, at a certain point, Kelsey Warren of Energy Transfer Partners is a perfect example. At a certain point, how much is enough money? At a certain point, it's not about providing for yourself for the basic essentials of life. It's about filling voids within yourself, whether it's ego, whether it's the desire for power and status and, you know, having an image to the outside world. That's all ego, because you don't have that inner peace. You don't have that inner happiness. You're not content. And I think what he said was really powerful. And I just remember speaking to him in Portland that day while I was interviewing him. You know, when you interview people, you're listening, you're trying to sometimes think of the next question. For me, it tends to be a little bit more organic. But I had trouble because I was so moved by a lot of the things he was saying that it was hard to think of the next thing. So he was really someone that I found to be a special person. And again, not someone you're ever going to see on CNN or in the New York Times or featured anywhere, really. But I think what I'm trying to do is showcase these people, because these people's stories, these people's struggles actually expose the real economic and injustice and what I see as cruelty being perpetuated by the top 1% and their aides in the government. My last unsung hero, I mean, I could go through 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 100 people in Standing Rock. I think all of them are the unsung heroes, but two stood out to me. One of my earlier trips there, I covered a brother and a sister who chained themselves to machine equipment to stop construction for a day. This happened throughout the struggle at Standing Rock. People trying to chain themselves to the machine, trying to do anything they can to slow down production. Take a look at my conversation with the brother and sister who chained themselves. The people who ran away this morning when they saw you, do you think they just simply don't care about your people and your land and your culture? What do you think is behind the corporations and their greed?
Well, they run away really fast. Never seen, I never seen these workers. I've been in other places and other actions, but seeing these workers running away so fast, it gives me an idea of the strength of the people. Like I say before, we don't have guns, we don't have bombs, but we have our bodies, we have our commitment, we have our prayers, and we have our actions.
It's really awesome to see all the many tribes gathered together to support each other in this fight. We haven't gathered like that for 140 years. The first time we gathered like that was 140 years ago at the Battle of the 100 in the Hand. And we're making history again today. Yeah,
I mean, there's something really powerful and striking about standing up there next to Native Americans on a construction machine. You know, it was something I'll never forget. And you kind of felt like you were a part of a real historic, unique, and seismic moment. You know, obviously it's a construction machine, but people are literally putting their bodies on the line, their lives. I mean, in North Dakota, you don't know what's going to happen to you if you do things like that. And their dedication and their pure unwillingness to sacrifice their culture and their land and their water, most importantly, was really powerful, and I think shows that, you know, we all have our issues in life, we all have our strengths, our weaknesses, but Native Americans, they are a very strong people. They have been through the ringer, and that's an understatement, over the last 500 years. And this brother and sister, you know, statements like, you know, you can't drink oil and things like that, really were powerful. You know, I'm a white guy from Long Island. I haven't really spent that much time with Native Americans before I covered Standing Rock. And these people every single day were the unsung heroes, not just to fight a pipeline, but to show us what strength is, to show us what joy is, to show us what beauty is. You know, I'm not that religious of a guy, but to see how strong their belief in prayer is, and to see them put that in action, and to be peaceful and respectful of people oppressing them, of people trying to poison their water for money, for people trying to steal their land, for people who did dig up their land. To see them, even aggressive acts like trying to chain yourself, to do it in a peaceful way, unarmed, chanting, singing, being prayerful. To me, you don't see that often in life. You don't see that every day you're not going to see that down at Wall Street. You're certainly not going to see that on cable news or, you know, the corporate media. And to me, the brother and the sister, mixed with a lot of others in Standing Rock, were the unsung heroes, because the bottom line is, you know, Standing Rock is just a microcosm for the bigger battle of unfettered greed, versus basic dignity and humanity. And it's nice to see people fighting so strongly, so fiercely, fiercely on the side of humanity and dignity. And these people are not giving up. Even if Trump tries, some jiu-jitsu and tries to, change the game and approve permits once they're resubmitted, these people, including the brother, he said it best, like, this pipeline will never go through. We won't allow it. And that was really powerful to me. And of course, the unsung hero, you. Thank you for keeping us moving. We've grown very quickly, and we have new reporters signing on now, and things are really moving in the right direction. So I'm very happy to have you guys as viewers. It's been a really long stretch for me. I haven't taken much time off, but seeing the comments, the sharing the videos, the compliments you've given me and Emma, kind of just keeps me going, to tell you the truth, because life on the road isn't the most glamorous thing. A lot of people say, like, oh, I'd love to have your job, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. There's a lot of lonely moments. There's a lot of sacrifice that you make in your personal life. Again, I wouldn't trade it for the world. But, when I feel down, when I'm tired, when I feel like, those days that you don't know if you're making an impact, the comments I read, the Facebook comments I read, the memes that viewers have been making, everything you do to basically show me and tell me that we're making a difference means the world. So thank you. And let's get back to 2017. Onward.